Fox News alert millions of American families.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN News Watch. I'm George Thomas. We begin with the latest.
Here in St. John's Boston, there are certainly a lot of efforts here at the LAPD and experts say
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN News Watch. I'm George Thomas. We begin with the latest in the coronavirus pandemic. Number of cases here in the U.S.
All right, here we are. A little bit late, just like always, so that should always be expected. We always run a little bit late, and we run on freedom time around here. So, with me today, I actually have one of the coolest 3D printers, in my opinion, right now. Not the printer itself, but a person running the printer. Suckboy Tony is how you can find him pretty much anywhere: Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. The links are in the episode description below. How's it going, Tony?
Pretty good, pretty good. Yeah, just finishing up another design for my plasma rifle series of designs, I guess. Getting ready for a Bear Arms and Bitcoin conference coming up here in Miami in a couple weeks. Just getting everything ready to show off. So, yeah, pretty good.
Word. So, most of my listeners usually are unfamiliar with the topics I bring up. So, I'm more of like the gateway to a lot of these things. So, do you want to give just a quick rundown on 3D printing and also 3D printing firearms?
Yeah. So basically, I'll start off with saying 3D printers are really easy to get into and start doing and really cheap right now. It's only about 200 bucks for an Ender 3, and that can print you. I mean, if you're interested in guns and freedom type accessories, an Ender 3 can build pretty much all the designs that are out there right now. And that's only, yeah, like 200 bucks, I think. You can sometimes find them on sale for 180. But yeah, so they're really cheap, and it might take a little bit to get into, to like get it set up and everything, but at least a lot of people I talk to that like tinkering with stuff enjoy it. So I would definitely, I mean, it's probably worth it just to have, even if you're not too sure, for 200 bucks. It's a pretty cheap investment. Um, so yeah, I would, yeah, that's a printer I would recommend to start off with, if you're pretty new to 3D printing. There's tons of designs. If you want to go like the gun route, the catalog is, I think it's thegatalog.com, but I would just Google the catalog. That has most of the gun designs. Otherwise, Thingiverse and all that has all the non-gun design stuff. And yeah, just print off some designs. You don't even need to worry about designing stuff at all. But I would definitely recommend learning that skill too. But yeah, so basically that's pretty much my spiel on 3D printing. But what I'm making, this is a little bit disassembled. I'm making plasma guns basically. So this is a 3D, completely 3D printed. There's like a steel pipe on the inside of the barrel, but the actual like rifling inside of the barrel is 3D printed. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on that. But yeah, so the inside 3D printed, and then there's a steel tube inside. It's basically completely homemade, just parts from Home Depot and a couple online parts. And then what makes it plasma rifle, so runs on a 3S lipo, just like drones and RC cars.
So cool.
Yeah, and then this is just the ignition module. It costs about $3 on Amazon. I buy like bulk pack. I think it's like 3 for 12 bucks or something, but it's an 80 kilovolt igniter. And then I mean that's literally all the electronics that are in there. Is just this, and then the rest is just wires going to the triggers. The trigger. My next design, this one was a pump action. I don't even know where the hell it is. I'm pretty disorganized, but this had pump action, basically something that locked into there. To lock the bolt, you pull it down, pump it. It was kind of janky, so now I'm switching to using a solenoid, basically. So
Yeah.
this is just an electromagnet, and that's basically going to be like right here in the new design, and just spring up and lock the bolt in place, and then you just have a trigger on the pump to unlock it, basically. uh, that should help with a lot of the stress, and like, I don't, basically it's a lot better to just lock it up and back instead of having it locked up way up
Yeah.
there. And so yeah, that's the design that I'm printing up now. And I guess I should explain the ignition part too. So yeah, it's an 80 kilovolt igniter. Basically just sparks across a probe. There's a probe in the firing pin. I think of it as a firing pin, and then a probe on the top there.
Yeah.
That goes down into the barrel, and then I use disintegrating. I had so many around here. Oh yeah, so disintegrating cases. So this is a printed case, and basically one probe goes in the bottom of that, or the back, and then the arc goes through the case, and then ignites the powder. So right now I'm using black powder. It works with smokeless powder too. But yeah, that's basically it. So the because the case is 3D printed and the chamber is a little bit oversized, the case just shatters when it goes off. So there's no need to extract it. Like typical guns, you need an extraction to take the case out. This gets rid of that.
Yeah.
So it's super easy. I'm really excited to release the files, because you can do a ton of modifications to it without knowing much about firearms. Like anybody that's ever modified like an airsoft gun or a Nerf gun or anything like that, it can probably make a new design using this type of system. So
So is that how you started doing like modding Nerf guns and stuff?
yeah, actually, yep, pretty much. Probably started, let's see, yeah, somewhere in middle school, got into airsoft guns, got into like fixing friends' airsoft guns. And then kind of like high school, late middle school, I got into making potato guns too.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so I made a lot of different variants of that, and a lot of really cool stuff. And then, um, yeah, I went into the army for a bit. After that, I was a combat engineer, so it was like blowing stuff up. So I guess that kind of gives me a little bit more experience when it comes to not blowing stuff up, I guess. When
Including
it comes to the
yourself.
guns. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, luckily I haven't gotten injured with any of my tests,
Yeah.
or anything. And
So
then
so it's actually pretty cool. I can notice well, anybody go follow his Instagram and all of his other socials, because he posts a lot of this stuff. It's honestly one of the coolest things. And those caseless, or that caseless ammo, that's what like drew my attention, because I was like, that's honestly the coolest thing I think I've ever heard of.
yeah,
Like that's so crazy.
yeah, I appreciate it. And yeah, honestly, it just came about, like there's definitely like the cool factor to it, but it really just came about from being the easiest way to go about it. Um, like I'm trying to make a fully DIY platform, and stuff like the extractor is really hard to 3D print, and yeah, or machine yourself. So
Yeah.
my thought process is, all right, well, let's not use an extractor. Let's just make it blow up in the chamber. Why do you even need anything coming out, especially if it costs like 2 cents a case to print, and they're plastics, they're not reusable anyway. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, and then the electricity came about with just some of my designs were having issues with firing pins. So I just got rid of the firing pin. Went to I guess my earliest design with electrical ignition was just using steel wool with like a 9-volt battery, basically, to ignite the powder.
Yeah.
But then a YouTuber named Naomi Wu is she sent me some like test igniter things, and I was able to get those working. And so once I knew that the arc ignition worked, it made everything a lot easier.
Dude, that's so crazy. It's honestly one of the coolest things in my opinion. And not even just the firearm thing, but you know, I'm all about radical liberty. And like this, the 3D printing technology just like completely undermines mass production.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's just like one of the coolest things, like in the climate of things like with China, everything being made in China, it's like, well, just invest a little bit of money while it's still worth anything, and
Yeah.
then just get a 3D printer.
Yep. And that's another thing too that's really motivating me, is like just the aspect of being able to make everything from scratch. Because right now, like with every firearm pretty much in existence has a primer. And those primers, I should probably do my research again, but the last time I checked, I believe there was only like 3 manufacturers in the entire United States that are allowed to produce primers. And you need all sorts of
Wow.
licenses and permission slips from Big Brother or whatever to manufacture it, because it's like chemical, it's like a hazmat thing, an explosive thing, all this shit. And that's really annoying, especially during COVID when there was all these shortages. Most of it came from primers.
Yeah.
So luckily, yeah, my electrical ignition, the main goal for that was just to get rid of primers. But now it's allowing a lot of other stuff like the disintegrating case and all that. But yeah, so I'm really excited to get this out there and fuck over those primer companies that have a monopoly, I guess, on the whole supply chain of ammo, and aren't
Yeah.
ramping up production or doing anything great. I mean, maybe they're. I haven't looked too much into it, but that's just my initial impression, at least.
I mean, there's definitely some of that for sure. I think just firearms in general, the barrier to entry for any new uh, like gunsmithing company, or especially with ammo though, because that's, I mean, without the ammo, it's useless. You know, it's just a
Mhm.
hunk of steel and iron.
Yep.
But yeah, the ammo, I've not done a whole lot, so I'm not an expert or anything, but I've done a little bit of research just figuring out some of the regulations in the uh, ammunition production uh, business, I guess.
Mm.
And it's regulated, of course, by the ATF. Um, and we gotta love those people, don't we?
Oh yeah.
That actually leads me to my next question is, um, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering as well, what's the legalities that you've at least ran into, whether it's just snaking through all of this, because this is all new technology.
Yeah, so actually, as of right now, if you're in the United States, you can build any gun you want, as long as you could legally buy it off the shelf. Like for example, I don't have any special licenses, so I can't build a machine gun because I wouldn't be able to just buy one off the shelf. But for example, like anything, I could go to my local sporting goods store,
Hmm.
and buy off the shelf. I can make something similar, replicate. I mean, this technically, it's using. This is actually kind of in a gray area. My designs, basically, it's between not being considered a firearm at all and just being considered a firearm. So I'm not at any risk not knowing the difference really, because I'm legally allowed to own it regardless. But since it's black powder and doesn't require a primer, they're basically the definition that the ATF gives for like an antique black powder muzzle loading rifle, which
Mhm.
isn't regulated. So technically, felons, I believe, can own a black powder musket. But that says, I think the wordage is like fixed ammunition, which includes a
Okay.
primer. Basically, their wording is if it has a primer in it, it's a firearm. If it doesn't have the primer and the primer is separate from the ammo casing, then it's a black powder muzzle loader thing that's not regulated. This doesn't have a
Interesting.
this doesn't have a primer at all, but I don't want to get in the business of, messing with the ATF because I don't have a lawyer yet. So
Yeah.
I'm just playing it safe until hopefully once I get some like funding or start a business with it, I can get Matt LaRogier. I pronounced that wrong, but he's the guy from Fudbusters on
Okay.
YouTube. He's a really cool lawyer that does firearms stuff. So yeah, hopefully I can run some stuff by him and hire him to get some input. Because if it's not a firearm, that means it could technically be made full auto and suppressed without being regulated, which would be a really big game changer. But I'm more concerned too with getting it to like people that aren't able to have a gun due to like financial reasons or being in like Myanmar and having your parents killed by the military and stuff.
Yeah.
Because that was also another big motivator was seeing the FGC-9 being used in Myanmar by the rebels. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw those pictures. I thought that was very interesting. It's like, wow, this is actually having real world effect, and also it's actually being tested out on the battlefield,
Yep.
which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, that's just wild. Starting with Nerf guns and now you're here.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
definitely one of the coolest things. And anyone watching, definitely not the only thing you can do with the 3D printer. I've seen about anything as long as you can think about it. Somebody probably already has made a 3D printer file for it. So
Yeah. Even something, I don't know where it is necessarily, but like I just posted a video on my Twitter. I made a like automatic spring wrapping jig. I mean, this is for guns. Everything pretty much I do has to do with guns, but I mean, if you need a spring for any reason, this is like an automatic spring wrapping jig.
yeah.
So basically, get a 3D printer. You can make and get like I use just a bunch of wire like that. You can make literally any spring you'd ever need. But yeah, pretty much
So so
possibilities are endless.
what's been the hardest part building a real world version of the plasma rifle out of Fallout? Like,
Yeah. So it's definitely been like the smallest issues that are giving me a lot of trouble. Mainly like sealing up the barrel, like basically the bolt and the barrel, getting a nice seal in there. I don't really have any fancy mechanisms besides it's basically, let's see, this is the bolt and basically it just goes in like like a quarter, more, a little bit over a quarter inch. So it sits in there. There's a lot of gas that comes out of there that I've been trying to fight with. It doesn't damage anything, but it reduces the power a little bit. Basically, it's the same thing as a revolver. How a revolver has like a lot of gas coming out between the cylinders, so not a big deal.
yeah.
But it is something that's annoying, especially black powder because there's a lot of smoke. But my next design, I lengthened the bolt quite a bit, so it goes in way further. Hopefully that'll seal it up a little bit more, but if not, not too worried about it. It's just an annoying thing that is pretty hard to deal with 3D printed parts, getting a gas tight seal. But other than that, the electric ignition has been kind of hit or miss. Getting it to ignite reliably and quickly was pretty difficult in the beginning. I think I've got that down pretty good. There's a lot of like basically the leads, like the spacing between the two probes has to be just right to get the temperature right. And now I also just figured that lower voltage is actually better for the igniter because it goes in like pulses. So the higher voltage has a slower pulse rate, and the lower voltage is really high frequency, and so basically sustains the plasma arc across it way better and ends up burning hotter, I believe. Well, it actually burns stuff more. So yeah, probably the ignition's been pretty difficult, but I think I got that figured out now. But yeah, it's been surprising. I was expecting way more challenges and for it to break a lot more than it has. So I guess stay tuned. There's probably going to be some issues coming up because it really shouldn't be working this smoothly. But yeah.
Yeah. So, oh man, I just forgot what I was going to say. So, but could you actually, and I think I know the answer to this, but asking for anybody else listening, could you essentially, at least in theory, make it so your designs could be modular to where you could make just different parts and all piece them together?
Yeah, yep, that's definitely the goal. So, like I try to have all my designs use kind of similar elements, or at least I definitely will in the future. With like a pump action design, I'm hoping to have like a semi-auto design and stuff. They should all use like similar or the same barrel, stuff like that. So you can swap them out. Um, in terms of, I'm also trying there, it would be pretty easy to do, like if you have a factory barrel, like if you just found, I don't know, let's say an AK barrel or an AR-15 barrel or something, it would be pretty easy, I think, to modify to basically use like my functioning system with a factory barrel, and then that way you could get a lot more power out of it. um there's basically there's a lot of different ways to change it, and obviously like it's completely 3D printed and the files will be available. So stuff like the grips, I'm hoping a lot of people will make a bunch of different designs for the grips, and then there's like the magazine and stuff too. So the magazine is really simple. It can there's if anybody wants like a drum mag or something, it would be pretty easy for other people to make. But yeah, basically, and it's all basically just uses a 1/4 inch threaded rod to put everything together. So it'd be really easy just to like swap out this middle piece. You just have to unscrew everything, put another piece in, and screw it back together. So yeah, I would say extremely modular.
Right on. That's I'm just so amazed, and honestly, I just love the 3D printing technology, anyways. And as soon as I heard that people were starting to 3D print guns, of course, I was just all over it.
Yeah.
Um, it's just really interesting because, I mean, not sure exactly how you feel, but there's been a major push to try and disarm Americans, and so many countries all over the world already are disarmed. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
this just brings the ability for almost anybody to be able to uh, have that protection, and that being one of your goals is just honestly so admirable in my opinion. So
Yeah.
thank you for that. That's great. The world needs it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Cause yeah, I mean, I honestly, I'm kind of at the point where I feel like voting between the two candidates is obviously pointless. You're gonna get fucked over either way, especially with like the two-party system we got now. So I probably can't do anything to change it. The best I can do is make guns that anybody is able to make across the world that they're not able to control in any way whatsoever. Because yeah, I think the frames that everybody, most of the designers in the 3D printed space, I would say, are working on just like 3D printed frames for like Glocks and stuff like that, which those are cool for the United States, and like non-felons like myself. That's cool. But it's really easy to regulate. Like, I don't know, the ATF being the way that they are, it would be super easy for them to just say, nope, slides are regulated now. Nope, barrels are regulated now. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more to it legally, but in my perspective, they're going to do what they want. So you just got to go completely outside of the box, outside of anything that they can possibly control.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. And that kind of brings me to my next question I had is um, about Jay Stark. Right? That was Jay
Yep.
Stark.
Yep.
And do you kind of want to explain just who he is, his significance, and what happened real quick?
Yeah, yeah. So he was the lead designer of the FGC 9, the Fuck Gun Control 9, which is a really cool platform. I wish I've made one to show it off, but I've been so busy with my own guns. But it's a really cool 9mm SMG essentially. That's completely DIY. The barrel uses a really cool, it's called electrochemical machining. Basically, you just need like a car battery and salt water, and then you 3D print jig. Kind of, I mean, yeah, you can think of it like this thing with basically wires wrapped around it. I mean, it wouldn't be a spring; it would be wires in the shape of the rifling that you're trying to dig in, and then put that down a pipe that you can buy at a hardware store online, run current through it, and then just basically, I won't get into the science because I barely know how it works myself, but basically it like etches away, electrochemically etches the material, pretty much any metal, doesn't matter the hardness, and you can get a really good rifle barrel out of that. um, so that was a lot of Ivan the Troll, and I believe uh, why am I Liberator 12K Jeff Rodriguez. I believe he helped with that, with a lot of that barrel making. And then Jay Stark did pretty much all of the internals and like the actual gun part, I believe. And he made it so everything was a lot easier to make, because basically they took the design from the Ludi, which is a really old SMG that a British guy made in like the 70s, which is pretty much a piece of shit. It's unusable, but it can be made. I mean, a British guy was just making it to prove that you could make an SMG from hardware store parts.
Yeah.
I think Brendan Herrera, the AK guy, just did a video on that a couple of weeks ago. If you want to see how that works, but it's based off that design, but they made a ton of improvements so that it's actually usable. Now it has sights, Picatinny rails, uh, nice, easy ergonomic charging handles. And pretty much whatever grip you want. They made it so it works off of AR-15 fire control group, like the trigger mechanism, and then somebody also took that and made the AR-15 trigger control group completely 3D printable. and then they also found you can use airsoft, like the fire control groups for AR-15 airsoft replicas. I believe
Wow.
some of those work in real guns too. So yeah, it's pretty much completely DIY and everything. So basically, the only reason that I'm doing what I'm doing is because that gun still takes 9mm ammo, which I see as a bottleneck. I want people to be able to make their own ammo at home. Um, like black powder, you can technically make like you have to dry out your pee basically, but like everything you need to make black powder is in your pee. So if you really want to start like having jars of piss laying around your house, you technically could make the black powder from scratch too. I'm sure there's way easier ways, like with stump. I know stump remover has a lot of the stuff you need, but um, yeah, basically, uh, I want everything, including the ammo, to be homemade, which necessitates the electrical ignition, which necessitates a completely new design. So I kind of had to go back to the drawing board to get rid of the ammo problem. But if you do have 9mm, the FGC 9 is a great build. And yeah, it's been used in like Myanmar by the rebels fighting the government that took control like last year. And it's a really decent gun. And as far as
And
Jace,
so yeah, what happened to Jay Stark?
yeah, so basically Jay Stark, the designer, he was I believe he was a Kurd, which already like I think culturally they're basically Kurdistan. It's like Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria, I believe. It's like a cultural group in the Middle East, and they're really well known for making guns and being really handy. They also have some really hot ladies fighting. They have basically the Kurdish. They fought off ISIS. They tried to fight, or yeah, they definitely fought ISIS though, and they had some very attractive Kurdish ladies fighting. But anyway, they're badasses as a cultural group, from my understanding. And so he emigrated to Germany, and basically he got pissed that he couldn't own a gun and that his rights were being infringed upon, that he couldn't defend himself, and that others, in Europe couldn't defend themselves. And he was a really big supporter of the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, and he also, yeah, he really liked U.S. I don't. There's basically he went by Jacob Stark or Jay Stark. That was a guy in the revolutionary times who I read up on him at some point. He's a badass. I would recommend you guys Google Jacob Stark. I don't know much. I don't remember much about him, but yeah, he's a Revolutionary War figure that was a badass. And so yeah, Jay Stark really liked him. He really liked the U.S. and the freedoms that we have, and that Europe. And he was very pissed that like Europeans and stuff couldn't enjoy the same freedoms. So for a while there, a bunch of people in the community were actually trying to get him over here. A couple people, including myself, offered to marry him. Now that gay marriage is legal, might as well just marry him, get him over here as a what's it called, mail order bride type situation. But there's a lot of like paperwork and just yeah shit that he didn't want to go through. Um, and so yeah, he was in Germany and making guns, and I guess he got a heads up that it was Interpol and the German police had got basically, I think Coinbase. Well, I know for sure Coinbase leaked his information. Coinbase and um, there was another like AliExpress, I don't think it was AliExpress, but it was basically he bought something through Coinbase and they ratted him out. Um, And so, and I think luckily he didn't talk to any of us about this part. This is kind of just what I've gathered from the news articles. Because when they raided his apartment, they didn't find anything at all. And he wasn't there. So he must have gotten an early heads up. And then randomly, also, I should say, he's a healthy 27-year-old. Yeah, I think he was 27 at the time, man. And he was pretty ripped and shit. He had a mask on, but like I've seen some pictures. He had some biceps. He was definitely healthy. Um, yeah, he that might have had some underlying medical conditions. I shouldn't jump straight to the conspiracy thing, but basically 2 days after he cucked the Interpol and German police, and he got out of there without giving them anything. He randomly had a heart attack in his car outside of his family's house, I believe, which is very suspicious timing. Definitely, I I don't know. They're basically the community's kind of split on it. So some people are saying he did have an underlying heart condition, which I guess would make sense. If Interpol raided your house a couple days ago, you probably would be stressed, but that's also very suspicious timing. You would think the stress would have been the highest like before the raid, and once he got away without them finding anything, should have been more relaxed. But I don't know. Could have been a government heart attack gun. Could have been health conditions. Um, I definitely believe the government would kill people that they disagree with. So might as well have been the government. Definitely sounds like something they would do. Even if it was just a heart attack or like a health condition, I'll probably still blame the government just because fuck them. I get, and either
Yeah.
way, they did cause. They caused the stress of it. He shouldn't have been stressed trying to, protect his rights, and he was doing something. He wasn't hurting anybody. He shouldn't have had to worry about armed men storming, breaking down his door. Um, so yeah, even if it was a health condition, they straight up killed him because nobody should be threatened or live stressed by a government death squad breaking down their door.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Everything I read about the situation, it was very odd timing for somebody so young.
Hmm.
Even underlying health conditions. Somebody who's fit. It's not unheard of. It just seems more
Yeah.
likely that it would be something nefarious,
Yeah.
just because of the accomplishments.
Hmm.
It just seems likely to me.
Yeah.
The whole what is it, Occam's razor? The most
Hmm.
likely explanation is usually the correct one.
Yep. Yep.
So that's what it seemed like to me,
Yeah.
personally. But yeah, I'm
And
with
it.
you either way. Fuck it, it
Yep.
was the government.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
Let's see. So there is one thing I was gonna bring up here. Let's see. So do you want to let everyone know what this is?
Yeah. So that's basically a cutaway of the ignition system. Um, so the second, like the brighter blue flash, is the higher voltage ignition that I was using previously. It looks really energetic, makes a loud sound, but you can see when it's on the that one, you can see it doesn't burn the paper towel. Um, so, but the lower voltage has like a sustained arc, and you can even see like when it, even after the flame or after the arc stops, there's like a flame that still kind of residually comes off of it. um, which there's a lot of physics behind that. I'm in school for mechanical engineering, so way out of my wheelhouse. I'm trying to understand it better, but as far as I know, it's kind of black magic. I'm just seeing what works the best. Um, but yeah, so basically
So
just the
what's
ignition system.
what's the benefit to the second arc versus the first as far as your ammunition goes?
Yeah, basically it'll give more reliable ignition. It also the lower voltage one that kind of gives that fireball, it should give more of like a, I guess, consistent ignition and ignite more powder at once. Whereas the second one, the higher voltage, that's looks a lot more forceful. That's really concentrating a lot of the energy at the probe tips. Um, Whereas basically, yeah, it's a lot of like it from my understanding, so it generates like a plasma around the probe tips, but then between the probes isn't experiencing as much like electricity or heat. Um, Whereas the lower voltage one that has higher frequent, more of like a sustained arc, that has heat generated like throughout between the two probes instead of just at one. So it's actually able to like melt through the 3D printed casing, which my previous design, let's see, I had might not focus, but it basically there's like cuts, some yeah, shit, I don't know if it's focusing, but yeah, basically there's cuts all along the casing. Wish I could find a complete. Oh yeah, here's the a complete round with the ammo. It's a 3D printed jacket with I just have a bunch of they're like lead cores. I just have a really simple mold that I just long story. But
Yeah.
we can get into that if you want. But basically, yeah, cast your own lead, super easy. Use basically blowtorch and scrap lead. But so this has kind of like cuts in the casing. That was to allow the arc to pass through the casing. Since with the high voltage one, for some reason the casing, it being solid, it was insulating it basically too much, and it wasn't making that arc connection. So I needed to have some air gap holes for the arc to travel through. It's too small for the powder to come out of, but it's not waterproof unless you, uh, let's see here. Yeah, like this one, I was trying to waterproof it with like graphite paint, basically, um, which would work, but it's a hassle. So this new design, since it, or the lower voltage igniter, the new igniter, since it has a way better like sustained arc throughout it, I can go back to the solid casing that waterproofs everything, seals it up, makes it everything way easier. And then the arc will just literally eat through the case in a millisecond. So should give way better ignition.
So let's see. This is actually a video of one of your test fires just a few days ago, right?
Yep. Yep.
So how has the testing actually been going? Has it been really actually worth it?
Yeah, yeah, it's been really good. Like in this video, the power on it. So, basically, my next step is to shoot at ballistics gel. But for right now, just gauging the power. It went through 2 boxes of cat litter. They were about half full, and I think it might have skimmed the top on a few of them. Um, and then it just blew a hole out the back of the plywood that was behind it. Um,
Wow.
so yeah, so it's definitely got a lot of power. It's a heavier bullet, or it's about the same weight as a 45 ACP, so like the 1911, what that
Mhm.
shoots. And it's going about the same speed, if not faster. Um, and it's a larger diameter too, so it should give like way better ballistics than 45. So for everybody, there's like a lot of old people in the gun community that are like, oh, I only carry a 45 because they don't make a 46. It's like, well, yeah, this is a 50, But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
if you like carrying 5 to 6 pounds of gun and ammo, it's not
hmm
not a very good carry weapon. They're fun
yep,
to shoot though.
yeah, yep, exactly. And yeah, I should say the advantage. So the reason why this one is shoots a 50 cal bullet is because of there's some basically complex math, but basically you increase if you increase the size of the projectile, there's a lot more area for the gases to act on um, compared to the sides of the barrel. So basically, long story short, you can get a lot more energy with a lot lower pressures the bigger your bullet is. So, for example, something like a 40 millimeter grenade launcher, um, that only has 3,000 psi chamber pressure. Something like a 9 mil has 35,000 psi. So a 9 mil is 10 times higher pressure than a 40 millimeter grenade launcher. Same thing, a 45 is 18,000 psi, so it's half the pressure of a 9 mil. Basically, there's a trend as you use a bigger bullet, you have a lot lower pressures. Basically, since it's also why muskets were like 75 caliber, 50 cal to like 75 caliber, because their material was pretty shit back then. So they couldn't get high high pressures out of it. But
Yeah.
the since I'm using the 3D printed barrel, there's a theoretical maximum pressure which is about like 19,000, 18,000 psi, depending on the material. That basically it'll shatter the rifling on the inside, regardless of how much you support it on the outside. Um, and but 18,000 psi is still more than enough. That's I mean, I'm running at like 9,000 psi, so half of that theoretical maximum, and I'm getting the same numbers as a 45 ACP. So there's a lot of room to push it even further. Um, but yeah, so basically, bigger the bullet, the better. I can't go any higher than 50 cal because of goddamn laws and stuff. It's like a destructive device if it's over 50 cal. So got to stay there, but it's good enough for me.
Yeah, that's incredible. So how has the community embraced you?
Yeah, the community's been great. They've like last year at Firearms and Bitcoin, gave a presentation there, which was a lot of fun, and a lot of people seem really interested in this. I mean, honestly, kind of cocky, but I think it's a really cool project that
Yeah.
hopefully will like fundamentally change how people think of firearms, or at least maybe encourage people to think outside the box, instead of thinking of guns as, oh, it's something that has a case that looks like this and it has a primer and like a firing pin. If you just think of it as it's something that makes something else go that way, it's a lot easier, kind of uh, loosens the chains, I guess, of your brain. So I'm really hoping that it has some sort of impact with people, either creatively, whatever, you know what I'm saying. But changes the way that firearms are designed. Um, I felt like I was going somewhere with that. I kind of zoned out.
You're good. Um,
But yeah.
so you're heading back to the same convention this year. Well, when is that, and exactly what happens?
Yeah. So, oh yeah, you're asking about the community aspect, but yeah. So the convention is in Miami, Florida, on the 8th and 9th, I believe. Actually, it might be 9th and 10th. But just Google Bear Arms and Bitcoin 2022. It's a really great event. And there'll be a lot of basically everything freedom related. A lot of people talking about Bitcoin, how to basically free yourself from like the banking system, which you can probably see is going to shit currently. And so if you want to educate yourself on Bitcoin or anything like that, I would recommend it. And then there's also some really great 3D printed gun people that are going that'll be presenting. I think Mr. Snow Makes, Chairman Juan, Jeff Rodriguez is going to be there with the Liberator 12K, I believe. Probably a ton more that I'm forgetting, but yeah, it's going to be a great convention for freedom-loving folks, and it's, I believe, the third annual. I swear I went to the first one. I was trying to remember the other day. I have absolutely no recollection of going to the first one, but I know I've been to every single one. So if it is the third annual, I don't know. I'm confused as shit, but I definitely went last year, and it's definitely happening this year. And yeah, it'll be a good time.
Nice. So, you know, to transfer to cryptocurrency just a little bit, it's definitely a hobby of mine. Well, it's more than a hobby in my opinion, but it's I definitely love Bitcoin, at least the technology. I think it's once again just one of those technologies that just change the world, and
Yeah,
we don't even know where it's going yet. Um, but the one thing I do dislike about Bitcoin is how public it is.
yeah,
And I mean, when the terrorists in Canada, you know, the domestic terrorists over there, they were protesting their government.
yeah.
Excuse me. They the government actually came in and blacklisted some of the Bitcoin addresses.
Oh, really? I didn't hear about the Bitcoin thing. I just knew
Yeah,
that they like froze bank accounts, and I'm like, well, should have used Bitcoin. But shit, if they were freezing Bitcoin accounts too, I guess
yeah,
yeah, that
yeah.
sucks.
That's just one of those things, and they tried to go after some of the exchanges, you know, Coinbase and
Yeah,
Kraken, Binance, all of these other places. And what I just find interesting about it is that it's like, well, if that can still happen, if it's still censorable, then that kind of defeats the purpose, you
yeah,
know.
yep,
I still think that Bitcoin has its place. Same with Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, a lot of these others. But I'm all about Monero.
okay,
That's just privacy.
yep,
That's you know
th-
the number one thing in my opinion. Anybody watching, get Monero.org.
yeah.
That's just where
I
you
was,
need to go.
I was gonna say actually, even though this is called Guns and Bitcoin, I believe they might have even changed the name because most of the speakers are actually talking about Monero this year. And I don't think there's any. It's pretty much all talking about Monero. I think
Yeah,
people are paying with Monero for the tickets. So I need to do
nice.
my research on that because that seems to be the up and coming privacy coin in the community.
Yeah, it's the it's really only the only one. Zcash, it has some privacy, but not enough.
Mhm.
Um, so what's interesting about Monero is that all these other projects, they all either start with Bitcoin or Ethereum. They're all based on that. Monero started with its own platform, so it's one of the only um, projects that actually are not based upon these platforms at all. And they
Yeah.
started with privacy from the ground up. So
Okay.
it's just absolutely incredible. Shout out to Monerotopia and Monero Talk, both same YouTube channel. It's Monero Talk on YouTube. Great channel. They sit and talk to developers of the project itself and everyone else that advocate for it, use it, all these different things. It's honestly just great. So Yeah,
That's
it's
cool.
pretty cool. They might actually end up being down there. I know they were just at the Bitcoin conference. They threw their own Monero conference um, a Saturday at the Bitcoin conference, kind of a way for them to do their own thing. So definitely check that out. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, hopefully some people show up. I'd love to talk to them. Thank them
Yeah,
for doing that and having an alternative
yeah,
uh,
seriously.
to Bitcoin.
Yeah, and I don't know if like how involved in the crypto community you are, but the Bitcoin maxis, um, for anyone listening, that's just people who are 100% sold on Bitcoin and just will not budge.
Yeah.
Um, they, I don't know, it's not quite a cult, but it's cult like in the sense that if you're on the outside, you're not cool. You're not
Yep.
cool, bro.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
I feel like I've noticed that fading over the past like year or two. Um, there's obviously still a bunch of people, but just I mean, I'm not too into the community. It's mostly like gun people that I follow, but it seems like everybody that was screaming to like hold on to Bitcoin for dear life is now not saying anything. Um,
weird how that
so I,
happens.
yeah, yeah, not sure what happened, but I've definitely seen it transition, which hopefully it's to things like Monero. So
Yeah, yeah, it's honestly just as far as the crypto community. I mean, I think the firearms community is actually just way more welcoming and everything. The Monero community is one of the only crypto communities that is very welcoming.
okay,
Also, one of the only communities I see actually trying to create more than just crypto. Um, there are people creating art, music, it got all kinds of projects. There's actually in the episode description, I have a way for people to buy fresh coffee with Monero, and
oh,
when you buy it, you actually get sent a bag, kind of like this. It has that QR code on it. Well, that QR code, you scan it with Cake Wallet, Edge Wallet, whatever, and then you get to send a tip directly to the farmers.
oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of amazing. That type of application for cryptocurrency, I feel like once it gets see, I guess it's kind of a double-edged sword though, because like you want you want everybody to use that type of stuff. Like it would be great if everybody was on that type of system. But then once you get public, and everybody knows about it, like, I kind of guessed that this was going to happen, but like them uh clamping down on, I think it was only Bitcoin, but basically, yeah, they're doing all this regulation because they're like, oh, the Russians are going to put all their money into Bitcoin, and I don't know, then
Oh no.
yeah, yeah. So I heard something about them trying to write some laws to regulate Bitcoin, which
Yeah.
hopefully stuff like Monero is at least left out. But
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
so that's the interesting thing. Even if they try to control Bitcoin, even as public as it is, they can't really. That's
yeah,
why they have to do things like blacklist the addresses and everything. However, it is still censorable with Monero and some other just basic security features. You just can't. There's just no way. You would have to find it first. And last time I checked, the IRS actually has a reward for anyone who can crack Monero, and they've had it up for like 6 years, I think. No one's been able to do it. So
damn. All right,
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
yeah, and so it's Monero with any Monero wallet you choose, and pretty much get a coin scrambler or whatever. Good luck.
Nice,
Yeah. So
very cool.
it's a cool technology, and do I think it's going to outlast everything? Maybe not. There's going to be something that comes along eventually,
Mhm.
something to improve it. But right now, it's king in privacy. And
Yeah.
I think the decentralization, which is how I'm going to tie it back into what you're doing. It's the decentralization that's the most important, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, Getting it out of the hands of these people who want to be able to control it, and people like you, people that work in the Monero community, uh, anyone working towards liberty is helping decentralize it. So, you know, it's just great. So,
Absolutely. Yep. Power to the people in any way that you can. I mean, yeah, it doesn't have to be guns, as long as, you're eliminating the, few people, the few elites from gathering all of the resources, all the power. Um, you know, stop them from being able to shut down people's bank accounts on a whim just because they don't agree with them politically or whatever.
yeah, wrong think.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Anything that takes us farther away from a dystopia, I'm very happy with.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think we're gonna wrap up here. Honestly, it's been killer to get you on, and I'm so excited to see what you're coming up with next. And uh, go ahead and plug wherever you are. Everyone, it is down in the episode description, so feel free to get it there. But yeah, go ahead.
All right. Yeah. Well, yeah, it was very great having being on. I love talking about my projects. If you want to follow me, I would say the best thing is Twitter, Suckboy at Suckboy Tony 1. And then yeah, that's my Twitter. I post the most stuff to that, just because it's easier to respond to comments, I think, and all that on Twitter. I do have an Instagram too. That's at SuckboyTony2. Um, and then I have a Patreon as well. That if anybody wants to subscribe, $5 a month will get you the access to a super secret Discord. And I post basically behind the scenes stuff, what I'm doing. I also have an offer to like help you out with your stuff if you have some questions with the design. You want to get into this stuff, join the Patreon. I'll hook up with you on a Discord call or something and talk you through it, or get you set up more. But other than that, and that's on Patreon, just Suckboy Tony. And other than that, I have a YouTube as well, Suckboy Tony 1, I believe. Yeah, either way, don't post as much there. Maybe it'll get big, or I'll start posting more eventually. I'm hoping once I get my designs finalized, I'll post some like breakdown videos, showing exactly how things work there. But yeah, other than that, yeah, it was great to be on. Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll definitely get you back on, and when you got some big updates after you drop the files and stuff, start
Nice.
promoting that, because I'm all about anything liberty at all,
Yep.
and it's to a radical degree at this point. So, you
Yep.
know,
Same here.
so yeah, man, it was great having you on. And anyone watching, make sure to go to risetoliberty.com/links. That's everywhere you can find us. You can find the Telegram, risetoliberty.com/free speech, which is kind of funny because at some point that's not going to be free speech. Risetoliberty.store for all your merch needs. And that's pretty much it. So until next time, stay free, my friends.